Your reaction to the decision by the European Medicines Agency to give the green light for continued use of the Johnson Johnson vaccine, albeit with a small warning?
It's a relief, Kieran. This is a very good vaccine, the Johnson Johnson vaccine. It has these very rare side effects. They use those words in the press release. It's very rare, and of course we keep saying this, don't we? And they've now said the benefits far outweigh the risks. So off we go with Johnson Johnson. Of course, the challenge now is for NIAC, because it's in the same class as AstraZeneca. So therefore, should they say it should be treated like AstraZeneca just for the over 60s? They're going to be on the ropes on that one, because that would be consistent, wouldn't it? And yet we need J&J to meet our goals, it seems. So therefore, it's going to be very interesting what happens in the next couple of days.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of people felt a little disappointed when the decision was made about AstraZeneca by NIAC, the National Immunisation Advisory Committee. Conveniently, we had just about enough people aged between 60 and 70 who could take what doses were on the way from AstraZeneca over the next 3 months. If they make a similar decision about Johnson Johnson, in all likelihood, we're going to be left with Johnson Johnson or AstraZeneca vaccine sitting on a shelf somewhere.
Yeah, and that'd be a tragedy, Kieran, because as you've just been discussing, it's all about speed now. We know these vaccines are working in the real world. We know they're protecting people usually. Even one shot is protecting. Back to that in a minute. So get it out, get it into people's arms. That's the message now. So it's going to be a question that NIAC will have to look at closely, I guess, as to what they do with this EMA decision.
It will be very difficult for them, though, to, I suppose, argue against the precedent that they set as recently as last week.
That's the point, and we saw that coming, Karen. I knew this would happen because I knew the J&J vaccine was in the same class as AstraZeneca. I knew it was causing these very rare clots. Again, they gave us the numbers, 8 cases out of 7 million, infinitesimally small chance of that. The other good thing about the EMA, Karen, is they've said how you can treat it. It's now a treatable disease. You give people something called IVIg, which every hospital will have. So there's even a way now, they're unlikely to see any cases, but should they see any, they can treat the people as well, you see. So again, we've got a bit more information from the EMA today.
That might give NIAC a little more wriggle room, will it? The fact that they could say, look, there's a way of treating this now, so advice maybe has changed.
Exactly, yes. And as I say, there's a protocol to treat this very rare type of... A drug called heparin causes it as well, you see, and they had a treatment for that already. And it's the same kind of condition as the heparin one, so there is a way to treat it. And you're right, that might allow them to say, well, look, let's decrease to over 30s maybe, they might say, which would be very useful to us, you see. And again, they'll say, look, in the very rare chance of something happening, you can be treated in hospital for this clotting condition.
Yeah, on the EMA decision, what they say is they found a possible link to very rare cases of unusual blood clots with low blood platelets. Can you explain exactly what that means? There'll be people listening thinking, do I have low blood platelets? How do I find out?
It's a very strange combination of clotting and low platelets, which is most unusual. It's called thrombolic thrombocytopenia, to give it its full name. See, you need platelets to clot your blood, right? That's part of the clotting process. Okay. And for some reason, those platelets get targeted by the immune system. Your own immune system turns on your own platelets, and that provokes all the clots. So it's a very strange combination. Other types of clots, you wouldn't see the decrease in platelets usually. You just see the clotting. So it's that combination that defines this particular rare condition.
And is there any way that people would know if they are someone who has low blood platelets?
No, there's no predictors.
Okay.
I mean, lots of people have been asking me this actually. So just because you've had other types of clots, that does not put you at risk of this, because it's a very strange type of clotting, extremely rare. Similarly, if you have low platelets for a different reason, again, that wouldn't be predicted to put you at risk of this.
And you mentioned the value, the importance of Johnson Johnson to our rollout. One of the big advantages, of course, is that it's a single dose jab, one injection, and you're done.
Yeah. Well, here's the most ridiculous thing, and it's got 66 to 72% efficacy as a single shot, right? We now know Moderna and Pfizer are 80% efficacious in a single shot, right? So why we wouldn't give out one shot of Moderna and Pfizer in the same way would be a mystery to me, because it's got the same level of efficacy in a single shot as Johnson Johnson has in a single shot. That's another little thing for them to puzzle over.
Yeah, let me ask you about that then, since you brought it up, that this one-dose strategy. We know that's something as well that NIAC are going to have to consider, and NEFIT now. The government had said, look, they're not going to make a decision or a determination until we know what the situation is with Johnson Johnson. I mean, there does seem to be some pushback in the last 24 hours. The stories in the newspapers and on the radio and television of different public health experts saying, you know what, we should do what the drug companies say is best practice. Let's stick with the 2-dose strategy.
Yeah, Ronan Glynn got it right, though, as well. He said, let's look at the supply. The first thing is let's suss out the supply chain. We've got to make sure we've plenty of vaccine, either in the coming weeks or in the next, say, 2 or 3 months. If there's loads of supply, you don't need to space it out. You follow the protocol that was set up in the trials, which is marvellous. Strangely, if supply is slightly threatened, in that it might take you 6 to 7 to 8 weeks to get the second shot in, you might use up all the first shots you see. So it's a strange kind of paradox, But it is all about supply. If we've loads of supply, we don't need to space out, basically, right? That's the key message here. And I suspect what's happening is they're double checking with all the suppliers. They'll also check with J&J now just to make sure there's massive supply coming in. If that's the case, there's no need to increase the spacing.